the Man vs. Wild behind the scenes.
Water.
I'm filming right now.
Oh, we're getting off.
Hello everyone and welcome to Man vs. Wild behind the scenes. This video has been a really long time coming. I'm really happy that I get to share it with all of you now. This video was filmed in and around the town of Halfway, Oregon, which I find to be an ironic title because I don't consider it to be halfway to anything. Our grandparents own a ranch in Halfway, and we've been staying up there for a week-long trip when we decided to make this. Everything you see in this video was either filmed on their property or on the public lands and roads outside of town. At least, I think they were public. We decided to go all out with this one and ended up filming over 30 minutes of footage and including our best editing to date. It also was our most collaborative project that we had made, with both of us taking part in the filming, directing, and editing. All in all, we think this was our best and most complete video that we've ever made. Another thing that we did was that while we were filming the main footage, we planned ahead and shot additional footage for a behind-the-scenes video to go along with the main episode. We wanted to share what goes into making these videos, and our hope is that you enjoyed the filmmaking process just as much as we did. Before we did any filming, we tried something that we had never done before when making one of these videos. We actually tried to write a script. So, fun fact, when making these other videos, we never ever wrote a script. Our mindset was always, well, wouldn't it be funny if? And then we'd go film it. Anyway, we realized very quickly that trying to write out this third episode wasn't gonna work out. So we decided to just go out and do it the old-fashioned way. So the first scene was filmed on the edge of the property, kind of in a little pond surrounded by a grove of trees. We walked around and there was this one tree that had a branch that was hanging over the water, and we decided, aha, that needs to be Bear's shelter. This is the Man vs. Wild behind the scenes. We've located what we want to be our first shelter, but man.
We gotta get into it.
Yeah, that's the hard part. We're thinking maybe he'll go like bat style and hang underneath it. We're not sure.
Something like that.
We'll get back to you on that. Now, the very first scene that we filmed, which took 2 takes, by the way, was Bear explaining what the shelter was. You remember this scene because that is what Gordon called
the West Eastern Thickleberry Bush.
Frankly, I don't know how he came up with that, but I also don't know how we come up with most of these things, so there. We just filmed our first scene. Pretty quick one, him explaining why the West Eastern Thickleberry Bush is pristine shelter. I'm trying to find filming locations. He's gonna somehow get into this tree. It's not gonna be easy. I'll find it eventually.
Watch out, there's thorns by your bag.
No, well, I don't want those.
We do want it kind of distant, but I know the phone
Yeah.
already looks distant, no matter what you're filming.
That's true. The lighting's not very good in here.
Okay.
I might have to try across the stream. We'll see. At that point, we filmed Gordon climbing into the tree, which he did, because he can. And then we filmed him talking about the shelter at night. It took a few different takes, and you can see our thought process evolve through them.
Try the flash. It's about 3 a.m. Just heard some wolves howling. My accent's terrible right now. What about now? I need to get back in the accent. It's about 3 a.m. Just heard some wolves howling. At least I'm safe from them in this shelter. It's pretty miserable though. Shelter's quite comfortable actually, but surprisingly I can't sleep. I need to, luckily for me, the thorns here, they'll keep those wolves away very nicely. It's a good thing I picked this shelter.
Surprisingly enough, he made it in. I had to put on boots so I could actually get in this to film. How are you gonna get out?
I so have ticks right now.
Oh, you do.
Same way I got in.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll move out of the way. We got visited by the dogs. I don't know where they went, but they followed me when I went and grabbed the boots. So we had to stopped filming once or twice just because they kept coming in. You coming out?
Stop filming.
As a side note, we added a filter to this shot so that it would look like it was at night when it was really like 2 in the afternoon. It was pretty early in the afternoon. While we were walking around this area, we came across a golden opportunity when we found dozens of the biggest worms that we have ever seen. Protein. Okay, here we go. Gordon's gonna not actually eat a worm right here. We found a bunch of them. We're gonna have to go collect some and give them to Dad and Grandpa for fishing. Good stuff. Of course, he didn't actually eat them, but honestly, it's pretty convincing, so he did a really good job. Also, while we were filming in this grove, evidently something happened to Gordon.
Something's right there. Suppose I touched the thickleberry bush.
You're gonna swell up like a balloon.
Yes, sir. That's dangerous stuff.
The other scene that we filmed here, which was just a little bit away from that pond, there was another pond that was actually larger. And that was where Bear strains water with his hands, which is pretty self-explanatory. That was also done in one take. But we did practice that one beforehand. And during one of the practice runs, Gordon just started saying stuff. And I thought it was so funny that I recorded it. Check it out.
Bloopity blue. Blue, 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 blue. The water.
You want to do it again? One of the funnest parts about making this video was going back and seeing all of the footage that we shot. Because like I said, we shot quite a bit. And it was really fun to remember everything that we had done and why we had done it, where we had done it. Until I came across this. Do it more. I didn't get it.
I'm not pointing at a... One more time.
Go ahead, do it again. I don't know what that is. After that, we were lucky enough to be able to use our grandpa's four-wheeler, and we used it to drive out to the roads and over to the mountains that are actually not too far from his ranch. I was driving the four-wheeler, and while I was doing that, Gordon was sitting behind me with my phone in his hand, and he was actually filming himself trying to do the intro, along with some other, I guess, landscape shots. However, this intro scene ended up being perhaps the most difficult part to film, and it took more takes than any other thing that we recorded. Give it a look.
Right! Right, today on Man vs. Wild, we're going out in Eastern Oregon. A very barren wilderness indeed. We're on the four-wheeler right now trying to get to a more desolate location. Today we're in Today we're starting off in Eastern Oregon, trying to find a place to drop me off. We're on the four-wheeler right now. As soon as we get out of reach of civilization, they'll throw me off, and I'll be on my own. Alright, today on Man vs. Wild, we're in Eastern Oregon, taking four-wheeler to get to the most desolate place we can find. It's fun stuff. We're taking a four-wheeler to get out into the wilderness right now. Once we're out of reach of civilization, they'll drop me off and I'm on my own for the next few days. Today we're in Eastern Oregon, taking a four-wheeler, getting me out of the reach of civilization. Gross! Today we're in Eastern Oregon, taking a four-wheeler to get out of the reach of civilization. Once we're out of the... Today we're taking a four-wheeler to get out of the reach of civilization. Once we get out far enough, they'll drop me off and I'm on my own for the next few days. Eastern Oregon today, we're taking a four-wheeler to get out of the reach of civilization. Once we're out far enough, the four-wheeler's gonna drop me off and I'm on my own for the next few days. See if I can survive in the desolation of Oregon.
I like the desolation of Oregon.
Today we're in Eastern Oregon, trying to survive. Yeah! Take the four-wheeler through the woods of Eastern Oregon, trying to find a place to drop me off. Yeah! Today on Man vs. Wild, we're in Eastern Oregon. We're taking a four-wheeler to get out of the reach of civilization. Once we're out far enough, they'll drop me off and I'm on my own for the next few days to see if I can survive the desolation of Oregon.
That road that we turned onto, it goes straight for a while, but then eventually it curves to the right. And we used that curve as kind of our turning around point, and that's where Bear jumped off of the four-wheeler. That took 2 takes, and everything that we filmed was between that point and the ranch just coming back. Some of the stuff that we filmed here, it includes the intro footage, the transition scenes, and our personal favorite from this location, the unpacking scene. This scene harkens back to the first Man vs. Wild, because that was one of the first things that we filmed then as well, where Bear goes through his pack and he shows us what's in it. We knew that it wouldn't be the ultimate Man vs. Wild unless we included another backpack scene, so we made it a priority to put this one in here. The hardest part about filming any of these videos, that started all the way back from the beginning, is trying not to laugh while the camera is rolling. Gordon's really, really good at this, and his improvisation is on point. And so he sometimes does stuff that catches me off guard and I just bust up laughing. What we tried to do this time, however, is that we practiced every scene multiple times. I would have the camera out, or I guess my phone, and I would have it rolling, but I wouldn't be recording, so that I could see what it would look like while he was going. We'd practice until we felt like we were ready. This meant that while the backpack scene in the first video took about 5 or 6 takes before I could compose myself, this time it only took 1. However, as impressive as that may sound, if you listen closely to the final version, I still laughed in the middle of the video.
And a bit of protein, this nice granola bar here, in case I get hungry, as any hiker would.
Granola bar. Still can't believe he called it a granola bar. Our thinking was that the audience would be laughing anyway, they wouldn't even notice it. So far, we think that's held true.
Look over there. Right over there. It's a wild Bear Grylls and his bunny. Keep the ears floppy. Yeah, I just pulled over here. The four-wheeler's right there. You can kind of see it. There's a field over there. We're probably going to have to do a scene of him walking into it to make other parts make sense. Who knew that this was right next to the cabin? This part looks pretty good. So what we didn't show you, by the way, as long as we're here, is in the back pocket, or what used to be my Chromebook is back there. We decided not to show it though. Would have been a bit much.
While we were coming and going from this spot, we tried to take a few moments to capture some footage of the four-wheeler driving across the road with myself and Gordon on it. The way we did this was have Gordon grab the phone, go take it somewhere, set it up, run back to the four-wheeler, I'd start it, we'd drive across the road, he'd go back to the phone, grab it, bring it, and then we'd take a look at the footage and see how he did. Most of the footage that we got was actually really good, and I'm really happy with how it went. But as it would turn out, it's surprisingly difficult to lean a phone up against a tree. For the last scene of the day, we wanted to show another shelter. We wanted Bear to spend a second night. Our videos have never been that long before. We wanted to take this the extra mile. This time, the shelter was going to be our grandparents' barn that was actually on their property. The only problem with this was that the outside was way too nice and it was on developed land. So we couldn't just waltz up there and call it a survival show. Is this a survival show? In order to give it a true man versus wild experience, while driving home, we were looking for a barn that an archaeologist could look at and say, all right, so if you look here, you can tell that there's the evidences of something that was here, but right now isn't. It might have been, I don't know, some sort of civilization from the late 19th century, but if you look right here, there's obviously been some sort of abandonment from this structure right here. Can't tell from some sort of peopled culture, something. So in other words, the only conclusion that I can come to right now is no one lives there. While we were driving, we came across several different barns and finally settled on one that I think we had even seen earlier in the day. We wanted to try and film as close to it as we could, but we ran into a problem.
We're up here, sort of a ways away. We were trying to get that barn over there, but there's a big yellow truck inside it. It's wide open, so you can see the whole thing. We didn't want that.
Doesn't really work for an 1800s
No,
pioneer barn to have a truck.
not much. But we're about to head back and be done. We've only got a few more scenes to shoot, and then we'll be good. We will have survived.
In the end, we filmed off to the side and it worked great. When we got back to the ranch, we got to work on filming the next scene, which was inside the barn. Now, trying to make our grandparents' barn look like it could be the other barn was a little challenging, but I'll show you what we did.
So we're in the barn, filming this barn scene. Gordon's putting back all the hay that he took out from over there. The cows are right there, just watching along. Not super nervous or anything. We filmed this on both sides. There's this side with that shelf. There's the middle section with all the hay, and there's this other side. For the second part, we went around the side and filmed the middle section to make it look like that he had built this giant bed. We're actually in the loft. This is the first floor. And this is the final bit of shooting that we're doing for the day. We're going to do the Finding Civilization scene tomorrow morning to make it more authentic. All in a day's work.
But as it would turn out, that was not the last bit of footage that we recorded that night, because we decided we wanted to have a little bit of Bear Grylls playing his wooden recorder. By then it was dark enough to look like it was night, because it more or less was at that point. And so we didn't have to worry about the lighting anymore, no fancy editing or anything like that. However, this scene also proved really difficult to film. Early on we got a really good take, except that once again I laughed in the middle of it because Gordon played a really shrill note that I was not expecting, and like other scenes, it caught me off guard.
Perfect.
But as we tried more takes, none of them seemed to match that same comedic timing or just really have that magic of the first one, and plus I kept, losing composure.
Okay. No, keep going, I'll edit it. Start over. Okay, go. One more time. I've been doing so good today.
Gordon had the idea that we could just take the really good scene that we had done and mute it right where I laughed. At first, I didn't like that idea. I thought it would be very noticeable, but kind of like the other scene, people laugh and they don't notice anyway, and frankly, it's worked. When we got up the next morning, the first scene that we recorded was everyone's favorite scene, the river crossing scene.
So we woke up this morning, it was very nice. Not quite as comfortable as the last shelter, but looks like we've made it to a river here. So it looks like we're going to cross to make it to civilization. It could be treacherous though, so we'll have to make a raft.
And around this time, our cousin Chaz McCall showed up with our grandparents' dog named Holly, and they stuck around, and Chaz actually helped us out later in the video. So the first step of having Bear cross this river was building a raft, if you can call it that. Something I've noticed is that a lot of other reality TV shows, whenever they have a building project, they tend to just take clips of that project and then skip straight to the end, to when it's done. Now, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but to me, at least, it almost comes across as, hey guys, we did something, I mean it, seriously, I promise, don't worry about it. However, I can honestly say that our video is a lot more authentic, because every single step that was needed to build this raft was shown in the video. So like, all 3 of them.
There it is. This is his raft.
I'm very proud of it, actually.
Chaz took his backpack across the river. I hid his stuff. I'm holding on to a lot of this stuff. Hopefully Holly doesn't jump into this. This is gonna be fun.
When it came time to actually cross the river, we knew that we could really only do it once. That's not something you can do again. I'm not sure that either one of us really knew what was going to happen. I do think that we recommended that he hold the raft above his head, because we thought that would be really funny. But everything else that you saw, everything in the river, that was one time, and it was all Gordon. He just improvised it, and he absolutely nailed it. And I was really lucky that the river was so loud, because I was trying to not laugh the entire time, because that's one of the best scenes of the entire video. We actually filmed an additional scene here that was meant to be a transition to the final one, where the bridge that he crosses is pointed out to him by the cameraman, which happened to be me.
Good.
It's too deep. We'll have to find another way.
Hey, Bear?
Yeah?
This scene was also a nod to the first video, where he claims that he's lost, and then the cameraman, also me back then, shows some civilization. Wait, no, you're not lost yet. In the end, though, Gordon thought that it was a bit unnecessary, and we ended up cutting it in favor of a more sudden transition, with the implied joke that he found a bridge and that's how he crossed the river. Also, fun fact, across the river from where we were was the grove of trees where we shot the original scenes from the previous day, so we can really say that we kind of ended at the beginning, if that makes sense. And that brings us to the very last scene, civilization. This scene also ended up being very difficult to shoot, and we had several takes before we got the right one. Like I mentioned before, Chaz helped us out, and eventually Ashton came and joined us as well. They were supposed to be the angry farmers running us off of their property, and we even got Ashton a pitchfork. However, on our first try with Chaz, it was just Chaz at that point, he didn't realize that he was supposed to be a farmer from Eastern Oregon. All he had been hearing was Gordon's accent, so...
We were finally able to make it across the river. It's a good thing we found a way. Hey look, the civilization! I think we made it! And this has been another episode!
Hey! What are you doing here? This is my property! We're in quarantine! Get out! Go! Leave here!
Yeah, I cut that off pretty fast. I let him know that wasn't really what we were going for. And then over the next several takes, we just kept running into problems.
We were finally able to make it across the river. It's a good thing too. It's cold. No. Luckily we were Hey look! There's Ashton!
Among others. In fact, the fact that it took so long became a problem.
So, we've had enough time lapse between our river crossing scene and finally getting ready for this final. So we've done several takes, but we finally have one that we like, or at least an idea that we like. But it's been long enough that his hair's kind of dried, so he's having to get it wet again so it can look good. Got Chaz and Ashton helping us out here. It was going to be Ashton, then Chaz showed up, then it was Chaz, and then Ashton showed up, and now it's both of them. And we got him a pitchfork. They're gonna scare us away from civilization. Hey, let's get going.
But after that break, we tried one more time, and we finally got the right take.
We were finally able to make it across the river. We found this cool little road here. Hey look! The civilization! We made it! And this has been another episode!
Hey! What are you doing here? This is my property! We're in quarantine! Get out! Go! Get out of here!
And this has been another episode of Man vs. Wild!
Ah!
But after that, we came home, and in the weeks that followed, we just tried to spend time editing this thing and get it done. I namely put the footage together and did a lot of transitional editing, whereas Gordon did a lot more of the fine-tuning. For example, he did the title screen, he did multiple voiceovers, any of the special camera effects, and he also composed the music using GarageBand on his iPad. However, before we released this video, we ended up filming one more scene, which actually became the title screen. We were going to a family gathering that day, and we knew that we wanted to finish it in time. So right before we left, and I mean right before we left, we went to the mountains behind our house, and we filmed just some brief stuff that ended up becoming the title screen. We actually saw a rattlesnake while we were there. So yeah, that happened. We were hoping that what we recorded there could be used as kind of a standard title screen for all of our videos, and frankly, I think we got the right one. So on the way to this gathering, Gordon spent the whole drive there editing, and even most of the time that he was there, editing and finishing this video. And he was able to do it. He did all the voiceovers, he finished the music, and we unveiled it for the first time there. And that is how we filmed Man vs. Wild Episode 3 Part 1. Before I wrap up, I want to give some shout outs and thank yous. First of all, thank you to everyone who watches these videos. It means a lot to us. I love making these videos. We enjoy it a ton. I love knowing that you guys enjoy them as well. I also want to thank my grandparents for letting us use their property, using their four-wheeler. Couldn't have done it without that. Another thing that I should acknowledge is that at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that we had recorded over 30 minutes of footage, and you can probably tell I did not include all of it here, otherwise this video would go on forever. And that is why I am excited to announce that later this week, I will be uploading Man vs. Wild Episode 3, the complete edition, with all 33 minutes of the footage that we had recorded, in the chronological order in which it was filmed. I actually made this video a few months ago, but I wanted to finish this video that you're watching right now before I released it. And with that, we have come to the end. Thank you so much again for watching this video, and I really hope that you enjoy the remastered edition of the Man vs. Wild trilogy coming out in July. Wait, was I supposed to say that? No, stop. And with that, I think we are done. That was an ordeal. Took an hour and 10 minutes to do.